Definitely one thing that scared me real quickly was the 6 foot wall that we had to jump over. I am short as hell, and they were telling us like, if you can't jump over this wall, go home.
All right, here we are. How you doing, Megan?
Hey, I'm doing well.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure. Let's just start off. Why don't you tell us your branch of service, what your job was, and the rank that you got out as?
Okay, so I was in the Air Force. I was a security forces member, and I was an E3 when I got out.
Okay, and I'm sorry, your first and last name.
Oh, Megan Rodriguez.
All right. Let's just. Why don't you tell me a little bit about where you're from
Sure.
and what your upbringing was like?
Okay. So I'm from Northeast LA, basically across the train tracks from East LA. And I grew up in an area called Eagle Rock, California. My mom was from a gang, and she lost me when I was very young. So I grew up with my father most of the time. I was with my dad, and he was a single father, had 3 jobs, and put me into good school. It was hard growing up. Even though I was very active and was in sports and was taken care of, I guess, I always mourned my brothers. I always mourned my mom. So I remember my childhood as being very stressful, very traumatic, crying a lot, angry. And in elementary school, I was bullied. So it was just a lot of different things going on for me at the same time.
Your brothers being incarcerated. You mentioned that your mom was in a gang. Did your brothers follow footsteps in the gang
Yeah,
life? Is that kind of what led to being
yeah.
incarcerated?
So my brothers, unfortunately, they didn't have the best role models growing up. They didn't have a father figure, and although they lived with my mom and me and my father, they weren't taken in as such. So they continued to be on the streets, learn from the streets, and got in trouble a lot. I know that I had a good relationship with them when I was growing up, but unfortunately, I can't remember a lot. I don't remember a lot. I don't remember anything before 4th grade. I do remember preschool a little bit, but I have blockages that just I can't remember a lot of things, and so since I didn't have my mom around, she was homeless in the streets of LA. My grandmother, my nana, kind of took over her role. So sometimes I would call her mom and say, "Oh, I'm sorry." She's like, "No, mija, it's okay. Don't worry about it." And my father would always get into these relationships where these women would resent me or get jealous because I was in a good school, I was in sports, and my dad had me on a pedestal, so they called it. So it was really tough.
Yeah. Was your dad part of the gang life as well?
No, and I should have clarified. So my mom was, and some family members are, but on the other side, it's a law enforcement. So my dad's actually a retired deputy sheriff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
What inspired you to go to the military?
Yeah. So what inspired me to go into the military was I wanted to bring honor back to my family name. I just felt like we lost so much, and I don't think the members of my immediate family think that or know that. But I think I was around 9. I was like, I'm gonna study my ass off. I'm going to go places and I'm taking you out with me. You know, like I just wanted to end things and I wanted to fix it. So I was going to Pasadena City College by this time, and I was in the cadet program there. And there was a recruiting office across the street, and they would come visit. And I was like, all right. I went home one day and I was like, Dad, I want to be a Marine. And he just went crazy. He was just like, and, I hope not to offend anybody, but my dad was just like, you want to come home in a body bag? Like he was just doing all these demonstrations in the front yard. I don't even know what he was doing, but he was like, look, I respect your decision, but can we please go look at the other branches? And then if you still want to be Marine, fine. He's always kind of given me that freedom to choose and trust in my choice. So there we go. The next week, I was like, you're not going to change my mind. I want to be a Marine. So we go the next week. We go to the Army. We talk to them. We talk to the Navy. They seem kind of cool. We go to the Marines, and my dad was like, hell no, you're not going to be like that lady. She had her hair in a bun, was smoking, looked just like she just came from Iraq. Like I was like, wow. And so my dad was like, okay, Air Force, the last office we're gonna go to. And I'm like, all right. So we get to the Air Force office, and the blues looked great on this guy. He was just squared away. And the way he spoke and just the way he carried himself, I was like, I want to look just like that. Just very professional, very like, just had it all together.
Yeah.
That's what I was looking for, I guess.
Right.
And so I told my dad, well, I'm going to go to the Air Force. And so I'm pretty sure that was a proud, happy moment in his life where his heart didn't sink to the pit of his stomach.
Right, I bet.
And I was just like, I can't wait. Like, what's better than that? What's better than going to the Air Force and bringing, and representing my family like that? I'm like, it's just a long time coming.
So did you get to pick your job?
So this is what happened. They wanted me to work with satellites. And, I mean, what a great job, right? Like, I could have been working with NASA. But I was so young and dumb that I was like, no, I got to be security forces. And they basically, not like this, but they basically told me, well, you really can't do that. You couldn't lift whatever, right? And I was like, give me 2 weeks. So I go back home and like Rambo, I'm training. I'm thinking I'm the coolest kid on the block. I'm working out and I don't even know what I did, but I went back in full force, and I became security forces.
Wow.
And I was just like, yeah, like I'm just fulfilling my family's legacy.
Right. And where'd you go to boot camp?
So I went to boot camp in San Antonio. My proudest moment was when my drill instructor coined me during graduation, coined all of us.
What's that?
They give you a coin for graduation.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if they do that in the other branches.
Well, I was in the Marines, so they it's probably similar to when they hand you your little Eagle, Globe, and Anchor. I imagine.
Yes,
okay.
It's that. It's the same thing. Yeah.
Got it.
And right from the beginning, the drill instructor would tell my unit, the girls' unit, we don't want you here. You guys are girls. Like, we don't want you here. You're messing up the whole system.
Oh, wow.
And he would tell us this all the time. And at first we were fighting. We couldn't get it together. So he hated us. But I think there was a trend with him. I think we weren't the only unit that faced that with him. We're almost done with boot camp and he's starting to love us like if we were his own, We didn't want to part ways. We'll be in contact forever. You know, became high school real quick.
Right.
And he started crying. Like, so it was a good experience. I enjoyed boot camp. I was challenged, definitely, but I didn't mind that. So, and I'm one of those people that got married the day I graduated.
Boot camp?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes. I'm one of those.
Wow. So did you have a boyfriend going into boot camp then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I had my high school sweetheart at the time. And he never had health insurance, didn't have the best education. And I was like, you know, let's fix that. I'm the fixer now.
Nice.
Right? Like that's just it, that becomes a trend in life.
Yeah.
So anyways, I go to our training, our academy training for security forces. And that's also in San Antonio, Texas.
Okay.
And it's very humid. Me and humidity do not get along. But I really enjoyed our cadences, our camaraderie, and our trainings. But definitely one thing that scared me real quickly was the 6-foot wall that we had to jump over. I am short as hell. And they were telling us, like, if you can't jump over this wall, go home, you know. And I called up my dad that same day and I was crying and I was like, this wall, like this physical wall is stopping me from my future. You know, usually it's a metaphor, you know, walls, barriers, whatnot. And there's a physical one that's trying to get me washed out. So my dad's like, you got this, do what you gotta do. So I'm swimming, doing laps, just working out, trying to figure out how am I gonna jump over this wall. So the day came and everyone used it, not just me, but there's a sandbag on the base of the wall. So, you know, people jump on that sandbag and it helps them jump over or whatnot. So it's my turn, and somehow when I jumped, my right leg hooked onto the top of the wall, and so did my weapon at the same time, like my arm and my weapon. As I got to the top of the wall, for a brief half second that I had before anyone started screaming at me, I started crying. I was like, I made it.
Oh, wow.
You know, I was like,
Tears of
I'm
joy.
on top of the fucking wall. Like, I'm on top of it. And then all you hear in the background, get the fuck down, Rodriguez, you know? And I'm like, oh shit, like, just back to reality real quick, you know, and just finish the obstacle, crawling or whatever I had to do next. And I was just like, I get to stay in the Air Force.
Wow.
You know? So.
Well, I mean, not only did you have to get over that wall, but you had to do it with your weapon, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
And but you know, I want to backtrack a little.
Go for it.
What really got me through boot camp, what made boot camp easier for me, it wasn't easy, but what made it easier for me was every time I had a challenge, every time I was tired, I always thought about my brothers being there, cheering me on. Or if I just completed this last lap, you know, and at this speed, it would release my brothers, or they'd have their freedom right now.
They were your
so
motivation.
They were my motivation for sure.
Did you get to write them?
Yeah, I wrote them ever since I was a little girl,
And
at least once a month.
So while you were in boot camp, did you get to continue writing them?
No.
Okay.
Not while I was in boot camp. And I didn't actually get to share that with them until recently. One of my brothers, he's back in prison. And he was sharing with me that he felt like he messed up and that he was a mess up and, brought shame. And I told him, no, like, you have no idea, like, I know I make things look easy now that I'm older, things look like, oh, I get paid, I do whatever I want, great, but it was a struggle getting here.
Right.
And it took me many times failing before I turned things around. I told him what got me through boot camp, and he's like, I never knew that.
Wow.
So we share a lot, a lot of just motivation to keep going.
Well, how did that make him feel when you told him that?
Well, he's writing to me in a letter, so he's pretty good at expressing himself in his letters. They're usually 3 to 5 pages long. And I probably see a side of him that he doesn't share with anybody else. So it's really cool. It's special.
Special for sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you ended up making it through security force school, I imagine.
Yeah. And that was the first time actually, the first time my grandfather ever called me to acknowledge me was when I graduated boot camp. And I was like, wow, I must have done something really amazing.
Wow. What do you mean by first time?
And, well, I didn't have a relationship with my grandfather growing up, but it wasn't anyone's fault. We just didn't have one. And it wasn't until that moment when I told myself I'm going to have a relationship with my grandfather, and I did. I made sure that him and I are close now. So,
Awesome.
but I did have to tell my mom, though, if you don't make it to my graduation, if you don't make it to my wedding, I will disown you. And I was very hard on my mom because of all the heartbreak growing up, not having her around, missing mother-daughter tea at school, and all kinds of things. But one moment I didn't forgive her for at the time was during my senior year of high school. I ran for homecoming queen. And long story short, I made it up to homecoming night. And I figured if I went to her house, showed her how beautiful I looked, she would go. I go to her house, and of course she's, Mija, you look so beautiful. I'm going to be there for sure. And she never made it. So that was a huge disappointment. But you know who was there?
Who?
My dad was there with a cardboard box sign that said, "Go Megan." Very guy-like. Not fancy at all, right? Like, so, lone wolf, but I had that. So I was like, okay, cool.
That's awesome.
So that's why during graduation, and I was getting married, I told her, I will pay for you to come here. I will pay for whatever you need to get here. But if you're not here, I no longer want a relationship with you. She was there.
Oh,
she showed up.
Good.
She showed up.
That's good to hear.
There were several times in my life where I had to really put my foot down with my mom. Just to, yeah. But, so anyways, after Security Forces Academy, I was stationed at Minot, North Dakota. Why not Minot?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was very cold, super cold. I come from California, so I'm not used to that.
Yeah.
Apparently it's like, sometimes it gets worse in Alaska. That's what I've experienced. But I loved it right away. It was very country. I never had that experience before. I never liked country music before I got there. Now I love country music.
Nice.
It was a very hospitable town. And so, mind you, I was married, and I had a house on base, but because my husband at the time wasn't there, I was kind of in limbo for 2 weeks. So I would sleep with my girlfriends in the dormitories. And eventually I got a house, and it was a 3-story home, including the basement, but that's a 3-story home to me. And my husband never showed at the time. So I was able to call my mom and tell her, look, she was still on the streets at this time. And I said, Mom, I have a house in Minot, North Dakota. I want you to move in with me. She started crying.
Wow.
You know, and that was my goal growing up, was one day I will have my mom live with me. But I was too young back then. I couldn't control any of the circumstances around me until this point. So she caught the train and she showed up.
Wow.
It was very interesting. My mom was a klepto.
Okay.
So it was very easy for her she had money, but she needed to steal. She needed to do something bad to feel good.
Right.
And I told her, Mom, I'm in security forces in the Air Force. I can't have you stealing. You're my mother.
Right.
Like, come on, you know? So one evening I go out with my unit, and the girls can't go, but a guy that was a part of my little crew was able to go, and I felt safer that way. I already knew, you know, to be cautious, and I was like, oh great, he's one of the girls.
When you say part of your
You know.
crew, is he also Air Force as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So just the unit I was in.
Right.
Yeah. And then the friends we made on base.
Okay.
We were part of fifth bomb wing at the base.
Okay.
In the security forces unit. And a guy was always hanging around with the girls, and we thought he was gay or just, you know, felt more comfortable being with girls. So he was just one of us. So we go to him and I pick him up in my truck, and we go to a unit get together. One of the guys lives off base, and that's every newbie's dream. One day I'm gonna live off base, right? So we get there, and it's very relaxed. It's like we're just hanging out, talking, and someone makes me a drink, whiskey and Coke, and I sip it about. We were probably there for like 10-15 minutes only, and I sip my drink, and all I remember was asking for somewhere to lay down. So the host was very nice and was like, yeah, you can lay down in this room. So I go lay down, and I'm just so tired, right? Out of like nowhere. And then I see the guy that came with me enter the room. So I figured he's checking up on me, right? Probably came in the room like 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later. I don't know. At this point, I don't really have concept of time. Somehow we end up he gets on the bed with me, but we end up on the floor. And all I remember is just in and out of consciousness. Just, I don't remember much, actually. Just, I do remember him on top of me, but I don't remember much. And I'm pretty sure I just went numb, and it was just like a shadow, right? Like he was just there. The next morning, I wake up and I go to the restroom, and my mascara's everywhere. And so I'm just cleaning myself up and everything. And I didn't even realize that we had slept over. So I'm parked outside and I still have to give this guy a ride home. But I knew something happened. And so as I'm giving him a ride back to the base, there's just tension in the car, like just awkwardness.
Is it just you two?
It was just us two.
Okay.
And he didn't really say anything to me. So I drop him off at base, on base, and I go to the VA hospital, to the TRICARE, to the hospital on base, as soon as I drop them off. And I go in there and I report that I've been assaulted, and I need STD check, I need STI check, I need a pregnancy check. And they asked me, do you want us to report it to your unit? And I said, no. I just want to make sure that I am okay. So they said, okay. So I get checked, everything's fine.
Why did you say no?
Because I said no because, one, I was married. And two, if I was to say that that happened, as security forces, and like 1% of security forces is women, probably. I really don't know the percentage, but it's a very low number. I felt that I was going to be ostracized, and I just didn't want any issues being new there.
Right.
And I kind of think I made the right choice because I ended up becoming harassed anyways. It was a right choice for me at the time.
Yeah.
Right away though, I compartmentalized it. I forgot about it as soon as I drove off the hospital parking area. Like, I just forgot about it. But it was subconsciously affecting me. And I didn't know why I was acting out. I didn't know why my marriage was falling apart. It never occurred to me that it was because it could have been because of what had happened, and I wasn't doing anything to address it. So my husband at the time finally came on base, and my unit, right before he got there, my unit supervisor would ask me, where's your husband? Where's your husband? And I'm like, he's home taking care of his father. He's sick. But they knew I was alone. And I would get strange phone calls like right before work, probably an hour or two out. We had to report to the command around 04:30, and I would get calls like at 2:30 in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, strange calls. So I was getting started to get harassed. And my unit supervisor would tell me, well, we don't want you talking to any of the males in the unit. And I go, why? We're in class, like we have to talk to each other, male or female, we're in class. And he's like, because it's all about perception and your husband's not here. And I go, oh, okay. I was not brought up that way. So it was very odd to me. And I'm a huge feminist, so I didn't like that response. I didn't like what he told me or what he was implying. Most importantly, what he was implying. So he would often pull me aside and just talk about that problem, like my husband not being there and I shouldn't be talking to anybody else. So that was already hard because I'm trying to connect with my new family, but being told that I'm doing something wrong. So when my husband did get there, now the command was starting to take me out of exercises and asking me about my marriage. And they're encouraging me to get a divorce because if I didn't get a divorce, I wouldn't be able to promote.
What?
And at that time, I was like, oh, okay. I didn't really know what to think about it, to be honest. And I already had grown so numb and so just disconnected that I honestly didn't even care if that had happened. You know, I had, when my husband came to live with me, at this point, I couldn't remember how it felt like to be in a relationship or to be with him, and I could not remember any memories that we had created together before he came to the house on base. So, looking back, I realized, I was dealing with a lot, and I wasn't processing it. And I was struggling, but was just alone in it. So they would pull me out of trainings, and they started to make up false incidents. So, for example, I'll just give one. I was talking to my unit. We were about to go out to secure the missile heads, and I was even there with the E5, and we're all talking. And one of the command personnel, I don't know who he was or what rank he had, came to talk to me. So we just spoke. And later on that day, he came back and called me into the office. So I go with him to the office, and he wants me to sign an Article 15. And I go, what is this? And I start reading it. And he said, because when he was talking to me, I was giving him attitude. And I go, what? I've never in my life have given an authority or an older member in my family attitude. I was very professional and was standing correctly, and I don't deserve this Article 15, and I had witnesses, and I went back and I talked to the sergeant that was there with me, and he's like, he couldn't believe that was happening. So somehow I became a target for them to constantly just, I don't know, attack. It was getting exhausting. Going to work was getting stressful very fast. By winter time, I've only been there 2-3 months now. By winter time, all the women in my unit were pregnant except for me. And I was like, I didn't get the memo.
Wow.
And I kid you not, I come into this middle of a circle of the girls, and I'm happy for them, but I was just felt very out of place even with them. And I was like, I'm not trying to go down that road, even especially so early in my career. That just wasn't on my mind. Not everybody, but in my particular unit, they were pregnant. So as things got more tough, my husband and I filed for divorce. We were only married 9 months. And I had no emotion, no opinion towards it. Just very numb. And he was sitting there crying, begging, pleading. And I look at him like if he was just if he was the wall, And I couldn't respond. I couldn't stop anything. All I could do was observe and watch and move on. So he ended up leaving. And in about a month later, the Air Force was going through force shaping, where they cut personnel and replaced us with contractors. So they had put me in the cleaning up crew because of my Article 15. And I don't know what their agenda was or their plans or anything like that, but the next time I spoke to the first sergeant, he gave me an option. He's like, you can either stay in the military or leave. And he had a list of all the people they were letting go. So this was across the board. It wasn't because of me or anything going on. They were literally letting us go voluntarily. So I didn't hesitate when I said, let me go, as long as I get my benefits. At one point, they wanted to strip me of my stripes, and I said no. Most of these stripes is because I'm educated. You can't take that away from me. Secondly, I'm not doing what these men are saying that I'm doing. You know, I had to. It was a constant fight. I wasn't even there on base for a whole year yet.
Wow.
And they just wanted to get rid of us. Or of me.
When you say let you go, like meaning get out of the Air Force completely?
Get out of the Air Force completely.
Wow. Not even just to some other job or duty station, no?
No, I was just let me go.
Wow. So how long did you end up doing in there?
So I was in the Air Force technically for a year and a half.
Wow.
And I jumped on it to leave as fast as I could.
Reasonably
base
so.
was so corrupt. It wasn't just with me. I seen it with how they were treating new captains and new personnel that would come to base. The leadership would change. The new leadership, they'd come with very positive, good vibes. They would talk to all of us during their when they would scout our posts. They would talk to us. 2 or 3 months in, they were a complete different person. And I knew that something was happening where they were being pressured to be corrupt. In fact, okay, one last example. I was really happy when there was new leadership came through. I forget the guy's name, but I think he was a new captain. He was very upbeat. Him and his wife came from another station. And I was excited just to have new blood there. And he would go around checking up on us while we were securing the missiles. And he actually helped me go home while my grandmother was dying. I was able to go home before she passed away. And I was grateful for that, because he had asked me, what's going on in your world? You know, what's happening? And I had expressed to him, well, sad that I have to be out here that while my family needs me, but, you know, I'm fine. He helped me go home. 2 months later, it's known with security forces that him and his wife are having problems and divorcing or whatever. As he's coming to work, his whole vibe has changed. While one day, some of us had to secure the building. We were in a training. And I had to secure an entrance. Don't let anyone in, don't let anybody out. And I had seen him before I got to post. And he was going back and forth to the Humvee, replacing equipment and getting ready for his own training. And I was like, shoot, like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here right now. So I relieved the last guy of duty, and I get posted there. Well, lo and behold, he comes storming out of the entrance, and I grab him by his vest, and pushed him back in front of me. And I said, I'm sorry, but I can't let you go. And he was like, you know, he just got all up in my face and with knife hands and talking down at me. And I'm basically backed up into the wall and in the corner. And I said, I'm sorry, you cannot leave. And I don't know if they're testing me or if this guy doesn't really know what's going on, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, you cannot leave. I will not let you leave this door. And, you know, he's yelling at me and my face is just, I'm just looking at him. While a master sergeant and somebody else, they were watching the whole thing. And they got on him really fast. And basically told him, you know, she's doing her job. You owe her an apology. And you better believe I ate up that apology, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they coined me right there and then. But just something about him had just changed and snapped.
Wow.
Snapped. So when they offered me to leave, there was no turning back. And I told myself, I'll be back.
What was your transition like after, you know, doing that year and a half or so? You know, what was your transition like getting back into the civilian life? Especially having gone through what you experienced.
So I didn't know yet that I still did not remember of the incident.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't remember it. It never came to my mind. It never stopped me from anything. Right away, I enrolled at Minot State University. I enrolled there, and I was on the dean's list the first semester. I was volunteering. I was back to what I like to do. Then I moved to California that summer. I moved back here to California with my mom. My mom was still with me. We lived off base, obviously. But we moved back to California, and I enrolled in school over here. I still don't remember of the incident. I really, really packed it somewhere far within me so that I can survive. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to these veterans events. I'm listening to other women and their experiences, and I'm sympathizing with them. And I'm like, wow, she's a survivor. You know, and we call ourselves survivors of MST, military sexual trauma. Excuse me. And I was like, wow, like for them to talk about what they're talking about, that's crazy. And there's a lot of them, right? So I'm looking at them like, I can't believe this happened to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think years later, about two or three years later, as I'm driving home from one of these events, it clicked. I'm a survivor of MST. I had to pull over. I had to call my partner at the time. And he was just like, are you okay to drive home? And I was like, yeah, I am. But I can't believe this whole time I'm looking at these women like, wow, you know, a good thing that never happened to me.
Right.
Not realizing that it did.
Wow.
You know. And it just all clicked out of nowhere. I had forgotten the guy's name, the perpetrator. I had forgotten his name. But I remember what he looked like. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until a Dodger game when I went with a friend of mine and I saw the name. And I was like, oh, Howie. That's a cute name. And as soon as I said that, it dawned on me that was his name.
Wow. And
I looked to my friend and I'm like, I remember his name. And she had no idea what I was talking about. And I go, but she knows what I went through. And I said, his name's Howie. And I'm pointing to the Dodger player, Howie.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, the guy's name's Howie. And I've said his name before, mind you, in the past. But I'll say it again. And So throughout the years, there's been experiences or incidents where I'm triggered by something that will help me remember and make that connection. So I went on to undergrad. I founded the Veterans Association on my campus. I went on to grad school. I revitalized the Veterans Club on that campus. My transition's been good, but I think those skills, those coping skills came from somewhere else, from my childhood mainly.
Did you ever seek help for that? Like any type of professional help?
Yeah, so in undergrad was the first time I saw a therapist. And our first 2 or 3 sessions, I was just on the floor bawling. I was like, I'm so sorry, I never do this. I don't even know where this is coming from. And I was just so vulnerable. I had no idea where these emotions were coming from. And continued ever since to have a therapist.
Till this day?
Till this day.
Good.
Now I see my therapist twice a month. It's gone up because I need that.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, I felt like I was betrayed many times growing up. Never thought that was going to happen in the military. So I think that I was able to still navigate my life thereafter in the transition. I got I have my graduate degree now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But it has been, I encourage therapy for everybody.
Yeah.
And to be honest with your therapist, which it hasn't been till recently that I've been completely honest. Like, look, I need you to know who I am and what you're working with, or else I'm not going to get the best advice.
Yeah, it still takes time that, just because you go see a doctor, there's no, just immediate trust, right? It still takes time. You still got to get to know that person, right?
Sure.
Wow. Would you say that the stuff that you experienced all the way, from your, early childhood with your brothers going to prison, your mom being on the streets, dealing with the traumatic experiences that you dealt with while in the Air Force, is there any positive that came out of that, you would say, that made you who you are right now?
I'm very independent, but not independent where I am closed off to love. It's more like I know how I was treated and what I didn't have, and I don't want other people to feel that. So it's so important to have a tribe, an authentic tribe, not superficial, an authentic tribe. People that will call you on your bullshit. People that will push you to grow. I've been engaged in the veterans community for over a decade now. And the people I've met and the experiences that came along with it and the opportunities have been endless. And it's not because I served in the Air Force. It's because I'm engaging with these people. And I feel like a lot of times we become hermits when we come out. But the key is to engage, to start talking, to volunteer, to be a part of something greater than yourself.
Yeah.
So if it wasn't for that, I don't think I'd be where I'm at. But definitely it's made me a very strong woman. I did start my own business this year.
Wow, congrats.
Thank you. It's called MXMG Enterprises LLC. And it became legit August 4th. So that's its birthday.
All right.
And I think, I'm not perfect. Nobody is, but definitely still working on a lot of things.
Yeah. You kind of just touched on it a little bit, but, I 100% agree with you about, being part of a community, you know, getting, especially if you're a veteran, getting back involved in the veteran community, and aligning with the people, you know, that have similar experiences like you, instead of getting out and being a hermit. So,
Right.
and you kind of just touched on that, and this is why, you know, we started this project here at Urban Valor, because you're essentially doing that right here, right now, right? You're telling your story. So, I'd just like to get a little bit of feedback from you of what you think about this project, and you know, yeah, just tell me a little bit about what you think of it.
I think this project is just exactly what we need right now. There's a lot of organizations and entities that have forgotten about our veterans and what we do, what we experience. There's a lot of biases. And I always feel that education just really is the catalyst for a better world. And the more we make people aware of our stories, our needs. We're very humble people. I told myself before coming here, I don't need to share my story. It's not important, you know. But if I'm not here, then I can't really encourage other women and men to share theirs, you know. And it does take a lot of courage. I had to, as I was telling you earlier, I went hiking this morning, did some yoga and breathing techniques, got a massage, just so that I can do this, you know. And it takes a lot of self-care and self-awareness to realize, like, yeah, I'm scared, I'm anxious, but it needs to be told over and over and over again.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we're gonna get ready to wrap it up. I could sit here all day. It's already been an hour. Can you believe
Wow.
that? But before we cut the tape, you know, is there anything you'd like to say before we end it?
I think the biggest thing is to find our tribe. When we surround ourselves by people that really care about us, they'll just remind us that we're worth it, you know. Yes, we can get overwhelmed and scared, and we can even stop and rest for as much time as we need. I've been resting for 2 years now, and that's okay. But once we're ready to jump back on the horse and remind ourselves that we're worth it, you know, it's a lot easier when you have a tribe of people that can help you do that.
Right. Well, all right. Well, you know, here at Urban Valor, we really appreciate you, you know, having the courage to come take a seat and telling your story. It means the world to us, obviously. You know, it's veterans like you that are the backbone of this organization. So thank you for being here, Megan. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Push it to the limit, I can't go no more. Red light, no way, I'm coming back home. Long dirt road, all on my own. I'ma be the greatest, try my